So the US credit rating has now officially been downgraded from AAA to AA+. You can say that this is relatively breaking news because this has been a century kind of, not a century, but a decade kind of long story. Because the story is that the last time that we've experienced some kind of credit rating downgrade kind of story like what's going on right now was actually about almost 10 years ago, actually a little bit over 10 years ago, specifically back in 2011. So now, about approximately 12 years later, we are seeing this happen once again. So in today's video, which is relatively, again, like breaking news and important to share, I really just want to talk about the background story to really get everyone to understand what exactly is happening right now. I want to talk about the significance of why it's particularly happening, and then the significance of what this actually means for us. So hopefully there's also going to be some personal insights, even if you've seen another video about this. Hopefully there's still something original to take away from this particular video, because again, this is going to be relatively important, especially because it's going to impact a lot of areas of our own regular life as well. What are examples of that is, for example, like if you happen to be on Social Security, if you happen to be on a social program, a government program, benefits, anything in that particular world, a lot of this stuff is going to be impacted. If you follow the stock market, you know, the stock did crash when this announcement was made, and also just a lot of big things that are going to be happening when it comes to just the economy and the health of our financial system in general. I think that this is going to be a relatively important video to definitely watch through. So with that being said, let's just get this video started. But as always, if you guys enjoy videos like this, remember to smash the like button, consider subscribing, hitting the bell if you guys like videos like this, and feel free to leave a comment about any questions or personal thoughts about honestly anything. So with that being said, let's get this video rolling and started. So the story to what's been happening right now is that it really goes back to May of this particular year, so specifically May of 2023, where the US was placed under negative watch. All this really particularly means is that they were just being observed by a lot of people inside of our economy, a lot of specialists and a lot of big professionals, where it was started largely because of the debt ceiling fight that was happening, if you guys remembered and watched a couple videos back, until they signed the debt ceiling stimulus bill that you guys may or may not have remembered. There is a video I made talking about that bill. It's still relatively relevant, so you guys can check it out if you guys want to. But after a lot of negotiations that happened in May of 2023, so this year, they were finally able to sign that bill on June 2nd of 2023, so about a month later, just a couple days, saving it from the deadline of June 5th of 2023 when they had to do that. But after many struggles, the problem is that because there was still some relative struggle to it, that's why, well, part of one of the reasons, of many reasons that we're about to share, so definitely stay tuned in a bit, why the rating was downgraded from AAA to now AA+. So why exactly did this particularly happen, or what's the background story to that now, is that it really happened because of a deterioration of governing standards over the last 20 years on fiscal and debt matters. So things such as like the debt ceiling bill, with it, you know, finally being extended to January 2025. The great news is while the debt ceiling bill was finally approved, because there was still a lot of struggle, it just wasn't a very good look for our country. You know, it made it look like, it seemed like there was just a lot of conflict that could potentially happen, a lot of unease, a lot of instability, and that's what really added to it. Additionally, the second reason why it really happened was really because of a lot of the rising government budget deficits. The simple way to put it is that the US is just in a lot of debt that's very difficult to pay back. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that because at the end of the day, your credit rating, or the country's credit rating, is a little bit like a credit score, right? And when you struggle to pay your bills, so if you struggle to pay things such as like your credit card bill, your mortgage, your car loans, everything like that, your credit score goes down. So similarly, the US is facing something very similar right now, where they're having a lot of budget deficits and a lot of struggles in paying their own particular bills as well. And that is definitely also adding and not doing any particular favors to their credit rating, which is now leading to why their credit rating has now declined from AAA to AA+. And finally, the last reason why this is really particularly happening has everything to do with the potential recession that people anticipate is coming. Because of the recession that's going on, the economy, and specifically the health of the economy, isn't looking very particularly bright right now. So when you have a lot of poor foresight that's happening right now, like what's going on with the recession and the predictions that have been happening, it's just also not a very, very good look for our country. Additionally, on top of everything that has already been mentioned. And I think that's probably the third reason why it's so important to understand what's happening in our country, and the fact of what's happening is, and why what's happening is leading to this breaking news right now of the decline in our credit rating system. So what does this exactly mean for us is that right now at this time, there are really only 9 countries left that have a AAA rating, which means that there's 9 countries that are now ahead of us when it comes to our credit rating / credit score. Those specific 9 countries, and I'm just going to read it off of here right now. It's going to be in Australia, Denmark, Germany, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Singapore, Sweden, and Switzerland. So these are the 9 countries that are currently now still have some kind of AAA rating. Every other country is basically something below that, and sadly this includes the US. Now, having a AA+ rating individually is really not that bad, so that's really one of the good news to share. But what this really means for us is, at the end of the day, is that it is going to be relatively difficult now to do a lot of let's just say financial related procedures and actions inside of our country. Because of what's going on, our credit rating in general is still relatively good, compared to the rest of the world, but individually compared to what was 1 month ago when, the credit rating was actually AAA, it means it's going to be a lot more difficult to do a lot of things now inside of our country. A lot of things could potentially be impacted, such as like social security benefits, government programs. And the reason why a lot of these programs are potentially going to be impacted is that because if the country is running through a lot of budget deficit issues, it means that there's going to be a lot of difficulties to physically raise up money to be able to fund and do a lot of these programs. They're still in pretty good shape, but it's really more about the long-term future. Specifically looking outwards about 10 years from now, we are not headed in the best direction. And I think that this is one of the biggest things that is impacting everything, or is impacting right now as we're speaking, everything that's happening right now, and is expected to potentially impact even more going forward into the future as well. It means it's going to be a lot more difficult for a lot of other countries to trust our country, especially with things such as like our currency. If, things related to the treasuries, bonds, everything in that world, it's not going to be good for the stock market, especially as well. So a lot of this stuff is going to be very impactful. Now, how drastically impactful, again, going back, because AA+ is still not that bad in the grand scheme of things. It's not going to be as impactful, but what's probably going to be an even bigger issue is the budget deficits and the bullet points that I listed about what's actually leading to this credit downgrade. In other words, I think that the credit rating itself downgrading, it's down to AAA, from AAA+ to AAA to AA+, is not necessarily going to be a massive impact. However, what is going to be a massive impact is really understanding the background story to what's happening in our country that led to such a rating, that led to this rating going down to what it is right now. And I think that's going to be the even more impactful thing right now, because right now the foresight is that it's going to be very, very difficult for a lot of people, or a lot of things that are happening in our country, to pay back their bills, their debt. And if right now they're currently spending more money than that they're currently taking in, it's just, not only is it at this point, not only is it not a good look, but it's actually a very dangerous situation to be in, because it means that they might potentially have to default on a lot of their loans. And that's definitely something that has to be avoided as much as they possibly can. For a lot of us, think a little bit like how if our credit score went down, it becomes a lot more difficult to do things such as like taking on a loan for a mortgage, a car, loans, student loans, things such as that. And similarly, our country's credit rating operates in very much the same exact way. When their score goes down, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to borrow more money in order to help fund a lot of the projects that they want for their country, or for our country in general, but their country as in like the countries that have their rating downgraded as well, just speaking in general big picture terms. And I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways to take away from this particular video. But what are some personal thoughts to maybe end this particular video is that I think that we're going to be able to bounce back from this, but I'd be more concerned about the long-term future instead of the short-term future. In the short-term future, very similar to what happened in 2011, they found a way to bounce back and raise it back up from AA plus to AAA. I think that they're going to find a way to do it again as well, because at the end of the day, they're just going to magically find a way to work out things that happen in our country. However, I'd be a lot more cautious about the long-term future because I think that's where a lot of the potential issues could potentially rely on, because it's not set for a very good trajectory into the future. And I think that's the most important thing to really take away from this particular video. But of course, feel free to comment your particular thoughts or predictions if you guys have any questions, thoughts about honestly anything, because it is always great to hear from you guys. But that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in today's video. So if you guys made it to the end, thank you for watching all the way through. Remember to smash the like button, consider subscribing and hitting the bell. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.